What the heck has happened to the Ford Mustang? It's put on quite a bit of weight since I last reviewed one. Yeah, I know, I'm just being stupid. This is the new Ford Mustang Mach-E. It is Ford's new electric car. In this video, I'm going to talk you around it, show you all its key features. I'm going to tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, take it for a drive and see just how much range you can get out of its battery. Anyway, I'm Matt Watson and you're watching CarWow.
Buying a new car? Then head to CarWow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. CarWow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
Let's start this video by talking about the price. This new Ford Mustang Mach-E starts from just over £40,000, and because of that, it doesn't qualify for the government's plug-in grant for hybrids and EVs. Still, you can save just over £500 off one through CarWow. Not a huge saving, I know, but this car is brand new. As it gets older, the discounts will increase, no doubt. And if you want to check out the best savings right now on new cars, click on the pop-out banner up there in the top right-hand corner of the screen, or follow the link below the video to go to CarWow. Alternatively, after this video, you can just simply Google "Help Me CarWow," and my team and I will help you choose the right car for you and get it for a fair price from one of our trusted dealers. Now let's talk about the design of this car, because it is linked to the price. You see, what I think happened is that Ford's executives said to their engineers, listen guys, we need to get and build an electric car and we should make it an SUV because everyone wants an SUV. Then the engineers went away, they did some maths and came back and goes, okay, yeah, we can do that, but the car, we're going to need to sell it for £40,000. And the execs will have been like, oh my God, who is gonna pay from £40,000 for a Ford electric car? It's supposed to be affordable. Oh, I know what we should do. We should make it a premium model. And to do that, let's call it a Mustang, because people are willing to pay extra for a Mustang. And let's make it look a little bit like the Mustang Coupe. Let's trade on our heritage. And here we have the finished car. It has a sort of coupe-like steeply raked rear window. These lights are just like those on the Mustang Coupe. You have the big pony badge there. No Ford badges on this car. Very interesting. Sort of Mustangy from the back, but rather tall and fat. From the side, you can really see the Mustang influence. If you were to just cut the car off there, that sloping roofline looks very sporty, but then obviously you've got this expansive body and quite a raised ride height for your SUV. Now, one of the tricks that Ford has done is by having this two-tone roof section here. So it makes it look a lot more coupe-like, whereas actually the roof is much higher than you think. Very clever design feature, and hopefully it'll mean that the space in the back seats is quite reasonable. I personally like the look of this car. Lewis behind the camera. What do you think, Lewis?
I don't like it.
You don't like it? I don't know why. I tell you what's not so good though. As standard, you get 18-inch alloy wheels, and they look a bit puny, don't they? If you get the high-spec versions, you get 19 inches, which I still think might be a little bit too small for a car of this size. But yeah, personally, I do like the look of it. Lewis is wrong. Here at the front, the long sculptured bonnet is very Mustangy, as are the headlamps and the shape of the grille, and of course the big pony badge, yeah, again, here on the front. Less Mustangy, fake vents round this central blanked out grille, and the fact that you have vents lower down which can open and close depending on whether the electrical system needs cooling or not. Here on the inside, the Mach-E does actually feel worth its 40 grand. It's got a really nice cabin, materials are good, and oh, I like the texture on the dash, feels solid, and the design itself is really, really interesting. I tell you what, Ford are beating Volkswagen and their ID cars in terms of interior quality. I prefer the inside of this. I prefer the screens as well. Really like this little thin digital driver's display. Really clear, and regardless of where you have the wheel, it doesn't really get obscured. In fact, the driving position in this car, where is it? Yeah, it's good. You can get it quite low for an SUV if you want it to feel a bit more sporty, or jack it all the way up if you want to go for that raised, imperious driving position. Got to talk about this though, this huge central screen, which clearly was inspired by Tesla, though Tesla are now rotating them around into landscape, which is the better way of doing it. The resolution is good. Also, it comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's wireless. Look, I'm running my Android Auto on it here. I wouldn't bother with the inbuilt system. There's just no point. Just use your phone, right? But if you wanted to, it does have navigation, and it's reasonably responsive, this system. One thing that's a bit weird is how they've got this physical volume button there like that, integrated into the screen. Don't know why they bothered with that, because you're pretty much just going to use the one on the steering wheel, or if it was a slider, it would be fine on the screen. The climate control is on the screen, but it's quite easy to access. Once again, better than what they do in the Volkswagen ID4. You know, you can just prod the button. You do have to look quite a way down though to do it, which is frustrating, and I would rather probably just have normal physical dials. Stop that noise. There we go. Speaking of the sudden demist, you actually have a physical button over here. Don't know why they put it over here. So yes, you do have a physical button which you can press, but you can't actually see it. So you have to feel your way, and it's not that prominent either. So they've sort of tried to create a solution and haven't really done it particularly well. Other than that though, the rest of the car is pretty well thought out. So underneath here, you have some storage, and there's a place for your key. There's your 12-volt socket there as well, and you can cover that up if you want to. That's your gear selector. And then here you've got some cup holders which are grippy enough but not too grippy. And you've got a big tray there for charging your mobile phone because it's got wireless charging on it. There's some more storage actually here in the door bins, which are decent size. They're a bit awkward in shape. You can't really fit big bottles in there. And there's some extra storage just under here as well. So you can like put things out of sight and maybe forget about them and then think you've lost them. Anyway, glove box, average. Classic Ford with the place for your glasses. I do like that. Really, really good interior. I like it. And the steering wheel feels nice and expensive too. And of course, you've got the pony badge on it as well to remind you that you're not in a Ford, you're in a Mustang. It's completely different. Completely. Here in the back, this Mach-E is absolutely massive. It's got a really long wheelbase, so that's the distance between the front and the rear wheels. It's like 2.9 meters, and as a result, look at the amount of legroom I've got. Also, because it's an electric car and a purpose-built electric car, there is a completely flat floor, which is really handy if you need to carry 3 people at once, which you can do because this car is quite wide. And look, then there's lots of space for everyone's feet. Really super comfy in the back. I'm very, very impressed. So this car has the panoramic glass roof. Comes as part of the technology pack because this is the extended range version and it gets that as standard. And the technology pack also includes a Bang & Olufsen sound system. You also get 360-degree cameras and some other upgrades as well. I'm really impressed. I mean, headroom's good as well. Look at that, got a good headroom. The headroom is slightly more in a BMW iX3. So if you need to carry really, really tall passengers in the back, you might prefer that car. In fact, if you want to see my full in-depth video review of that car, I'll put a link to it just popping out in the top right hand corner of the screen, which you can watch if you want to. But really, this car is going to be practical enough for most people. It's just so huge and it's comfy. The seats are really comfy here in the back, and there's a decent amount of features like you've got some pockets on the seat backs where you can store your iPads. You've got your USB sockets there, so one's a normal one and the other one's a USB-C, so you can keep the older and the younger generation happy. You've got some big door bins and of course an armrest with a couple of cup holders. It's a shame they're not covered, but at least you don't put your elbow in them because the position of them is there rather than back here like on some other cars. Yeah, all very lovely and comfy. Ford are doing a really good job so far. Let's talk about the Mach-E's boot space. So this car has an electronic tailgate. You've got 402 litres of space, which is okay, but a Volkswagen ID4 has 543 litres of space behind the rear seats, so it's quite a lot less than that Volkswagen. In fact, if boot space is a key priority to you, then you need to check out my in-depth review of the ID4. You can watch that by clicking on there. If not, then stick with me. There's a bit of a load lip to lift stuff over. Don't ask why I'm carrying this around. Just like to have a spare tyre with me. Because underneath here, you don't have a spare tyre. That wouldn't fit the car. But this is a adjustable boot floor. So you can raise it up to get rid of most of that load lip. Other functional features include, look, tie down points. You've got hooks. You've got 12-volt socket. You've got little lights as well to illuminate the boot. And when you fold the rear seats down, which you have to do by leaning in like that, then you have a continuous flat floor, so bear with me. You can roll things right to the front like that. Anyway, that's enough about this part. Let's go to the front. Being a purpose-built electric car, there is no engine underneath the bonnet, so Ford has used the space to create some extra storage, 81 litres to be precise, and it's got this handy little divider so that it's the perfect place to keep your charging cable bags, and then you've got a little bit of extra space either side of them. There is one thing that's a little bit weird about it, and it's this, look. Obviously to do with some kind of like regulations, probably American regulations, there's a release button here in case someone gets trapped in this front boot, this fruit. Though really the only way you could actually fit a human in there is if you were to liquidize them and then pour them in, and then they wouldn't be able to operate this anyway because they'd just be like human juice. And that brings on to 5 annoying things about this car. Ford are really trying hard to rebrand this whole car as a Mustang, as like a premium brand in its own right. And they've done a good job of hiding the fact it's a Ford, but they forgot to remove one Ford badge, and it's here, look. Don't go! If you actually own a pony to go with your pony car you might want to tow, and this car isn't particularly great for towing. The maximum towing capacity is only 750 kilos. Whenever you turn the car off, you get this annoying bonging and message. Look. Alarm system, turn off motion sensors, don't care about that. Check rear seats for occupants. Now admittedly there is the cameraman in the back, but even if he's not there, it will still ask that question. It's like, what, I'm going to forget my kids? Oh, sorry, forgot you were there. For some reason Ford has completely over lubricated the boot release mechanism. I mean, look at it, it's covered in Vaseline. It's like it's been to some kind of weird chemsex party. Ugh. I've actually got it everywhere. It's all over my trousers and over my hands now. The interior door releases are a little bit odd. So there's this lever here that you have to pull on, and you end up doing it with your 2 fingers, and it's really quite stiff. So you sort of get a workout in your fingers, which means you're either going to end up with RSI or really, really strong fingers. Sorry. And that brings me on to 5 cool things about the Mach-E, because the exterior door releases are pretty clever. Look, so you just press this button here and the door opens, and if you don't want to use your key, there's actually a PIN code facility there, so you can just put in a number and it'll open the door for you. I'm not entirely sure why they have these little handles for you to tug on, because actually all you have to do is this, like, press the button and you just open the door like that, which is how they have it on the back. Look, just press the button, open the door, no problem. In fact, I might try and remove these. I wonder if it will come off. Will I affect the car's warranty if I do this? Anyway, let's move on. When you press the start button to go driving, the car emits this noise, which is a little bit like the tension building sound effect they use on the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, when the contestant has just been asked whether it's their final answer. Have a listen to this.
Is that your final answer?
It's my final answer. This car's a really nice solution for the load cover. It's a really nice, easy to use and remove piece of fabric. So you're not having to like lug it about, and it fits underneath here like so. If you have the technology pack with the Bang & Olufsen sound system, you then get a sound bar which is built into the front dash. Very high tech. There are various elements on this car which really do feel premium and quite un-Ford-like. For instance, to release the bonnet, a bit like a BMW, you can do it just by double tugging the lever inside the cabin. There is no extra thing that you have to release here, look. Superb. You've also got heavy duty gas struts, and I love the fact that when you do open the bonnet, you're greeted by this big pony badge. Let's talk about motors, batteries and all that kind of stuff. So you can get different versions of the Mach-E. You can either have a rear drive version with a single motor or a 4-wheel drive version with dual motors, and you can have 2 different sizes of battery pack. The normal battery pack, which has a usable capacity of 68 kilowatt hours, or the larger capacity one, which is 88 kilowatt hours. And you can have that battery pack with either the rear drive version or the all-wheel drive version. Now, the entry-level car with the smaller battery pack and the single motor on the rear axle has 269 horsepower and a range of 273 miles. If you have the extended range version of the single motor car, then you have a range of 379 miles, and it increases the power output of that single motor to 294 horsepower. If you have the dual motor version with the smaller battery pack, the combined power output is 269 horsepower, like with the smaller battery pack on the rear drive car. Yet if you fit the extended range battery to it, then the power output goes up to 351 horsepower, so quite a change. In terms of charging, if you can find a DC fast charger with 150 kilowatt hour charging capacity, then this car can take it, and it means that you can actually charge it to 80% full in around 45 minutes. If you want to charge it on a home charger or wall box, if you've got 7 kilowatt hour charger there, it'll do it overnight for you, no problem at all. Don't look down there, because you'll see that actually I said don't look, it's not plugged in, it's just for illustrative purposes. Now, if you'd like to see a great offer that I found on a much less expensive electric car, I'll put a link to it just there. Click on that, follow the link, and you can find out what that car is and what the price of it is through CarWow. Okay, let's take this Ford Mustang Mach-E for a drive, shall we? I've got my special timing gear up there, which means, of course, I'm going to launch it. It's an electric car. It's all about the acceleration, right? I'm going to do that in a bit, but first I'm just going to do some general driving, although there's a little bit of a teaser. Let's see what the speed is like at building from 40. So it's 40 to 70. Yeah, it's quick, that is. It's not bonkers quick like a Tesla, but it's quick enough, and obviously there's no gearbox or anything to faff around with like you have with an internal combustion engine car, so it's instant response and away you go. One thing that does feel a bit odd when you're driving quickly is the steering. It has a slight rubbery feel to it. So it doesn't feel sporty in a way. You don't feel like it's connected to the front wheels. However, this thing goes around corners better than you might expect, but not quite as well as you'd hoped. So compared to other electric SUVs, it does have a slightly sportier, better handling edge. It stays pretty flat through the turns. But ultimately, there's no getting away from the fact that it's quite a heavy car. It starts from around 2 tons and rises to 2.2 tons. And that does affect the handling, as does the high driving position. It doesn't lean much, but high centre of gravity. Even though the batteries are low on the floor, a Tesla Model 3 does handle better, but really, neither of them handle like a proper V8 Mustang. And if you'd like to see a video review of a V8 Mustang, click on the pop-out banner up there. Anyway, back to this electric car, because that raised driving position does mean that when you're going about your daily business in town, you've got a good view out. The only slight problem I have is this A-pillar creates quite a blind spot. Those door mirrors, they're just a little bit small and a bit droopy, they look a bit sad. And the view out the back window isn't that amazing for a tall car because of the angle of that rear piece of glass to make it look sporty. It's quite shallow, the actual view you get out of it. One thing that is a bit annoying when you're around town though is the suspension. In fact, even when you're going quicker, it seems to be constantly moving about beneath it. Now you get this a lot with electric cars because they're heavy because of the batteries. They have to fit stiffer springs to stop the car leaning loads in the turns. The trade-off is that it can be a little bit firm. It's not crashy firm, it's more bouncy firm. You're almost like pogoing around a little bit. The car just cannot settle. It's like it's had too many cans of Red Bull and it's just like, ooh, or it's like some kind of Mustang horse that is kind of a little bit flighty and skippy. And it does get on your nerves after a while. Another thing that gets on your nerves when you first drive this car are the brakes. They don't feel very natural. Now with electric cars, the first bit of braking you do actually just is using the motor in reverse to recoup energy and put it back into the battery, and then as you push the pedal harder, then the actual normal friction brakes start to work. And as a result, the transition on this car is a little bit odd. So you press it a bit and not much happens, and you press a bit more and then it's like it's braking really, really hard. And it does take you a while when you first get into this car to get used to it. Otherwise it's like, oh, nothing's happening, no, oh, bugger. Ugh. And that can be quite frustrating. Speaking of braking, this car does have a one pedal mode. So you go into the drive settings, there we go, one pedal drive, which I've got it in now, and it means that you don't really have to touch the brakes if you're driving quite sensibly around town, because when you lift off, I'm going to lift off now, the car will coast and come to a complete stop. And while I'm doing this mode, it's probably worth pointing out these things here, which are the driving modes with funny names: Active, Whisper, and one called Untamed. What? Now what that does is alter the sound. So we've got propulsion sound on there. It also alters the throttle response and things like that. So now I've got propulsion sound on. The Untamed one sounds like this. Kind of like a sound. Whisper, obviously, you just get a whine from the electric motors, which they can't hide. And Active, a bit like Untamed, but less untamed. Yeah, enough of that. Anyway, let's get on to the launch, shall we? Right, let's see if this Mustang is actually like a Mustang to launch. So, start my specialist timing gear. Oh no, it's got one of those windscreens, hasn't it? A forward windscreen, quick clear windscreen, which means you can press a button and it'll defrost because you've got little white elements in there. But it does mean that my specialist timing gear doesn't operate. I'm going to have to go gear to the external aerial. Bear with me, I'll be back in a moment. Right, sorry about that. I've got it fitted now. So let's launch this car. I'm going to put the Mach-E into D. Mach-E D. It's the Mach-E D car. Let's go to McDonald's, I'm hungry now. Now let's just launch. Right, here we go. Hold on the brake. A bit slow away from the line. What are you going to do? 0 to 60? 6.5 seconds. It actually felt slower than that. 6.5 isn't too bad. Let's press on, see if I can get a standing quarter out before crashing. 15.04. Yeah, it's more about the instant response when you're just driving and floor it rather than away from the line acceleration. Last thing for me to check though is the economy. For every kilowatt hour used, it's doing 2.8 miles, which means that if I do the maths based on the fact that this has a usable battery capacity of 88 kilowatt hours, that is 247 miles that I would get out of this car under the driving that I've been doing with it, which is quite a long way off the claimed 367 miles now, isn't it? As an absolute figure, it's all right, but yeah, not quite what they claim. And that's mainly just normal kind of motorway town driving as well that I've been using it for. Oh well. So then, what's my final verdict on the new Ford Mustang Mach-E? Should you avoid it? Should you consider it? Should you shortlist it? Or should you just go right ahead and buy it? Well, I reckon you should shortlist the Mach-E. It really is a good looking and premium feeling electric SUV. Hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, please give it a like. And let me know in the comments below what you think about Ford calling this car a Mustang. Is it the right thing for them to do? Anyway, if you want to watch more videos, click on those windows there. And if you click on that box there, I found an amazing deal on an electric car that's quite a bit cheaper than this through Carwow, which you might rather have. So check that out. Actually, don't. You do. Whatever.